This week is Chris McLernon from Saigon Kick and Cold Sweat. And like the Greg Chason interview, this one goes over 2 hours and is split up into 2 different episodes. So this episode covers his early days and history of Cold Sweat, and a great look at the other side of the Only Logan incident, you know, the one where George Lynch stole him. He also talks about Cold Gin, the Kiss tribute band that had huge success, and Saigon Kick, how he got the gig and the initial tour. We'll pick up the rest of his story in part 2, including some great Eddie Van Halen stories. So let's get right to it. This is the first half of my interview with Chris McLernon.
I was born in Mount Vernon, Ohio, which was the home to Daniel Decatur Emmett, who wrote Dixie and Turkey in the Straw, and also Paul Lynde, who was the center square in Hollywood Squares for years. So I have that legacy coming for me as far as hometowns go, but spent very little time there anywhere else, apparently. I lived in New Jersey, I lived in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, I lived in Wisconsin, I lived in California, I lived in Florida, all over the place. As far as family musicality, Zippo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, except for some, not in the immediate family. In my antecedents, I guess. My uncle, who was also a member of Mensa and a priest at one point, could play 3-4 instruments. So I think that's where I got the multi-instrument capability. On my father's side, my great cousin is Ray Bolger, who played the Scarecrow in Wizard of Oz. So there's a little bit of song and dance there too. Yeah, so that was my grandmother, my paternal grandmother. She was a Bolger, and so we get kind of, you know, you might see the resemblance there too. But mostly the hat, I think. But but that's where it kind of came from. My brother kind of did, you know, some high school band stuff, meaning rock band. But otherwise, my sisters can all kind of sing, and my brother can sing, but I was clearly, by a mile, the only one who took it up and ran with it.
And what age did you start playing?
I started in 4th grade. I was at this Catholic school in Greensboro, North Carolina, Our Lady of Grace, and they were having guitar lessons. And I was like, oh, part of the school. And so my parents grabbed me one, which was, you know, kind of shocking because there's 5 of us, and it wasn't this kind of a luxury at that point. And so I took guitar lessons and hated it because we weren't learning the hits of the day. We were doing hymns and stuff, which was like, what? This is not any good. So it broke at one point, and the bridge came up. It just whooped right off. So a couple of years later, for my birthday, I got money, and it was still sitting in the case. So I took it to this local guy. I said, can you fix this? And he's like, yeah. I said, how much? I'm thinking, you know, oh, God, it's going to be $100 or whatever, you know, 13, 14, whatever it was. He said, $20. I was like, oh, I got birthday money that'll cover that. So, boom, got it. And like that weekend, just by happenstance, this Cleveland television station was playing Hard Day's Night by the Beatles all weekend. And I saw that and went, wait a minute, I know these songs already. Hey, they're just strumming acoustic guitars here and there. That looks kind of fun. No one told me about this part of it. And plus there were girls, which is a nice touch. And I went right back to that same music store and bought a Beatles songbook. And then instructor kind of beginner guitar, you know, book, here's all the chords, and went through the whole book and wrote out all the chords and the positionings and the hands and, you know, your fingers go here and all that stuff. And just started playing Beatles songs. And then a friend of mine later showed me how to pick guitar parts out by listening to records instead of having the songbook. And that's when I learned how to really good ear. I had no idea I had the talent to be able to sit to hear something and nail it. I just go, oh, that's what that is, and I didn't know how to do it. It was like a trick. And he showed me by playing Dr. Love by Kiss. He was like, check this out, man. You're doing it. It's like, wait a minute. And then the doors flew open as far as what I could pick up. And so that's kind of how it got started. So you figure 4th grade, and then was it maybe ninth grade is when it really exploded. And then all the way through high school, I was a jock until then. And then as soon as I got the guitar, I was like, hey, it's more fun. I don't get hit.
And did you start joining bands and that kind of thing right in high school?
Yeah, there was a couple other guys, and there was kind of this funny little it's like secret society. These guys all of a sudden popped out of the woodwork, played guitars, or this one guy I'd known since the 5th grade had already made records. Now you're talking, this is freshman year in high school. He's made 3 records already. Okay, in their local gospel band or whatever. It was him and his family. He could play drums, he could play bass, he could play guitar. His father had a pedal steel guitar. I mean, they rehearsed in their basement, and I was like, huh? I had no idea. And I remember coming downstairs to a mutual friend who also played guitar, and this guy was playing along to a Four Seasons tune and on the drums. And I'd known him, he played tuba in band. And I'm just going, I didn't know he played drums. So guess who became the drummer? And then we just kind of grabbed friends from there. And yeah, from then all the way up through high school, it was who can play, who can this, who can that, and then what type of music you like, and go from there and try and form a band and go.
And was there a good scene at that point? A lot of guys I talked to, it's like they're playing, some party in a field and there's 1,000 kids there. Was it that kind of situation, or were you playing kind of in the basement?
Basement for a while, because Mount Vernon, Ohio is about 13,000 people, so it was, tiny. And then when I moved to Milwaukee, just before I started college, my brother had been in a band in high school there. Actually, I'd gone to a boarding school before that, and we did have a band there, so we played at school functions there. And it was so it was kind of isolated. But once I got to Milwaukee, this description you're talking about, we would play, the Juneau Pumpkin Center outside on the 4th of July, and just people from everywhere would come and play. Or we play, a high school gymnasium, where we play, parties at someone's house or whatever, anything we could get. And 3 different bands at the time, because my kind of song list was so big, because just like everything, that I would play with my brother's band and play with my own and play with another friend's band, just a gig. So it was everything.
Now you mentioned that you went to college. Was that did you pursue music in college, or did you go a different path?
No, I was an art history major. Because that's useful. Although I love it, it's funny. I went to college. And my parents were like, "Hey, why don't you go to college?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Okay. Because I just, like I said, came out of this prep school. I was like, well, I guess that's what you do. Because again, I'm the oldest, and it wasn't discouraged, but it was such a new path that no one really knew what to do. And again, you're talking at this point, the only musical stuff you could get in college was like jazz guitar or jazz piano or, clarinet or, the classical instruments. And I'm going to a Big Ten school, so you would think there'd be something else. No. So I did take theory and composition, some other stuff, but I was like, I don't want to have to play The Shadow of Your Smile in 12 different keys to be able to get a good grade on guitar. So I did not pursue it academically. However, as soon as I got to Madison, I was like, okay, in Milwaukee, big cities, lots of clubs and lots of bands. I jumped in as hard as I could. I was like, let's go. And I played as much as I could.
And what kind of bands were those? Were those cover bands, or were you starting to do originals at that point?
Yes, to both. Started out playing covers, and then you would sneak an original in. And it's so funny, because we thought we were being really tricky. And then, I meet peers and heroes and all that stuff later on. Everyone did the same thing. Hey, here's what we're going to do, whatever, it's up on whatever album, it's one of your own. Or you just open with it. You don't tell them what it is. And you just, hey, what do you think of that one? And, but mostly at that point, it was covers. So if you're playing Madison, you're playing frat parties and dorms and, the local clubs. And if, you're packing them in, it's because people are dancing. Even if you're playing, At one point I was in one band that was playing like Babies and Sammy Hagar and, kind of poppier rock. And then another one that was playing, Priest and Dio and Maiden, but it's still, you had to get people out there and moving and jumping around. And it's like I remember reading an interview with Malcolm Young. He said, someone asked him, "Are you surprised that You Shook Me All Night Long is used by so many strippers?" And he said, "No, if you didn't get the people dancing to whatever you were playing, you didn't get work." And that's exactly how we were. If you weren't playing the hits at that point, you were not getting a gig at all, especially in a college. So if it wasn't on MTV, you might sneak it in, if you liked the tune, but otherwise we were trying to sneak in all the rock stuff that was on MTV at the time, because that was the new radio. That's what everybody was watching and listening.
Now, at that point, you were still pretty much only playing guitar?
Yes. Yep, I was playing guitar. And singing.
And singing, okay. And then when did you decide it's time to take it seriously? What was the move that you made? Did you move to LA, or what was the path?
I had a friend of mine who, at this point, this is just, Jason Bieler used to say, all your friends are grown-ups when we meet him on the road. And this guy, his name's Paul Splett, and he's now Assistant Attorney General of New Mexico.
Wow.
Right? So, but at the time, we were in the same band. He played bass, I played guitar. And Paul sat me down, I was about 21, and he said, "Look, man, I got news for you. You're a musician. Move to LA." He'd already moved to LA once and come back to Madison. And I fought it. I was like, no, because I'd been so programmed to, no, you're going to go to college, you're going to graduate. I don't know what I'm going to do with an art history degree, but I'm going to college. And Paul just would not let it go. He's like, "Look, man, few people have what you have. Do it. I'm going with you. We'll do it together, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's not as scary as you think it is. You're an artist. You're a creative. You are a musician. You need to go." And he finally convinced me. And so we had played, this was the last band I was in before we moved out. And we got about as big as you could get in Madison. We, filling the clubs and, just having a great time. But he was right. We were as big as we were going to get. We were playing as much of our own material as we were trying to. And he's like, "We got to go." So in the summer of '85, threw everything I had in the van and moved to LA. And I was like, "Okay, now what?"
And did you know anybody there?
Nope. No, that's not true. No, I knew one guy. I went to high school. Yep. Otherwise, it was the other three guys in the band and me. That's it. Didn't know anybody.
Okay, so you're kind of the cliche at that point. You arrive.
Oh, yeah.
Arrive at LA with your bag and your guitar.
Yep.
What'd you do?
I went, holy shit.
Look at the traffic.
Yeah. Well, at the time, I always had equated to it being like the 1920s when everyone would move out to LA to be a movie star. And, these kids would pack up from Wisconsin, and I'm moved to Hollywood, and I'm going to become a movie star. It was the same thing.
Yeah.
I am moving out to LA. I'm going to be a rock star. Yeah. Oh, so is everyone else. No, but I'm different. So I get out there.
I'm special.
Right, exactly. It should tell. And so I get out there, and Poison was filling the clubs. This is when Poison, you got Guns N' Roses, you got Warrant, you got Shark Island, you got LA Guns, you got Jane's Addiction is just starting. So you have all these bands all in the clubs, all crazy, filling them up. It's just, it's wild. And everyone's walking around. Sunset Strip used to be just 4 or 5 people deep on each sidewalk every Friday, Saturday night. And you walk in there and you just go, okay, I can do this, but holy mackerel, I'm in the big leagues now. So there's certain things I got to change. Okay, it was attitude or whatever. Now, lucky for me, and this remained true all the way through my career, I just drank beer. So I didn't fall into the trap that a lot of people did, where they get out there and they put so much coke up their nose, they're affecting the Bolivian gross national product, But so I was so focused on, I got to do this. And I realized that Los Angeles was just like Madison. It was a pie. So if you had this pie chart, you had talented and driven musicians were X amount of the pie, and idiots were X amount of the pie, and the hopeless, you couldn't carry a tune in a bucket or a certain part of the pie. It's the same pie. It's just, it's a lot bigger pie in Los Angeles. So the people had to weed through to finally kind of get really situated. It took longer than I thought. That was something I had not anticipated. You would just answer these ads and go to these guys' houses and just go, oh my God. But you sit down and you're polite, you talk, and you're just like, well, okay, there's one with this, I'm not doing that. And you just start by playing, you start figuring out like any other town, okay, these are the entry-level clubs, this is the next step, these are the promoters, these are the good places, these are the, whatever. Because I remember walking into the Whiskey and the Troubadour and the Rock and just going, okay, these are legendary places. I'm expecting the doors to open and it's like Oz, when Dorothy opens the door and it's Technicolor. And I'm like, this is, we got clubs in Madison and Milwaukee that are this good. Boy, did I buy that story. So I got out there and went, okay, this is going to take a while, but it can be done. And I figured out before I got signed, I'd been in Los Angeles, I'd been in 35 or 37 bands. And I counted everyone, like if I rehearsed with a band, I counted that. So there were some, peripheral kind of like, I'm dabbling, but let's cut it in half. That's still a lot. And it took about 3-4 years to get signed.
Was that Cold Sweat then?
Yes.
The first band you got signed in?
Yep.
Okay. And how did that band come together?
That band came together because I had played in a band with Anthony as guitar player. But I was playing bass on all our demos. And Anthony said, dude, you're like a really good bass player. And I was like, yeah? I was just playing it to play it, I always liked the bass. I was a good rhythm guitar player, which I think helps. And he goes, yeah, man. He's like, we need a bass player, like now. And he's like, why don't you, try out? And this is when they were called Ferrari. And got the audition. And then my audition was opening for the Bullet Boys. And that was the night we got signed. And I remember going, well, there's no pressure here, right? It was at the Palace. It was sold out. And this is when we still had Oni. And we get in there and we kill it. And we got signed by MCA. And I remember Wendy Dio saying to me beforehand, okay, good luck. I hope you make it. I'm thinking, well, no pressure there.
So that was your audition?
That was if you get through this, you make the band audition, yes. I had rehearsed with the band, but I had not gigged. That was my very first, hey kid, how about a little fire scarecrow? Calling back to Ray Bolger there. But yeah, it was like, woo, get through it. And I did. Got it. No problem.
And you got signed that night?
Yep. We got signed. It was like in January of 89, I think it was.
Okay, so you get signed. Oni's still in the band.
Yes.
So how long was it till he got poached by Lynch, and how deep into the record did you get then, or did you not start recording?
All good questions. First of all, yeah, George, poaching, good word. I would say it was about 5 months, and I'm friends with George. We became friends later, and and it was kind of, I understood the business a lot more after a couple of records. You just kind of, okay, yeah, I get it, sure, I get it. Well, okay, so we get signed, and then they're like, okay, write some more songs. So we go up to Big Bear, and we camp out, and we write a bunch of songs. And we come back to LA, and we start gigging, and we're testing out the new songs. And this is April, May, April of 89, maybe March. And so we're out playing the Whiskey at this thing called No Bozo Jam, and and Lynch is there, and we hear he's there. We know he's looking for a singer. And he shows up, and like I said, I got to give him credit for this. We're walking back up to the dressing room, and at this point we're called Ferrari. And he's standing there, and he says, hey, Oni, how'd you like to drive a Ferrari instead of just be in one? And I was like, okay, that's pretty clever. George, way to go. And
Well
yeah,
played.
right, exactly, golf clap. So we go upstairs, and he just barges in, and he starts selling himself on Oni. Come on, dude, come on. And Eric Singer from Kiss was there, and somebody else was there, and we're all just sitting there, and I'm just looking at Oni like, tell him yes or no. Essentially, if this is a social situation, you're being courted and you're being hit on. Either tell the guy to go quit buying you drinks, or or go home with him. Do something. But Oni's not good at that. So he's like, well, I didn't want to make anyone mad, and so it's kind of, the night ends, and I'm just going, wow, can this get any weirder? And the answer was yes. We rehearsed for another couple months or so, and then the contract clears with MCA. So, okay, boys, this is Wendy. Come into the office. We got everything. Here's the contracts. We're signed. Boom, boom. It's today. Hot dog. We all assemble. We get to Wendy's office, and she's got this interesting look on her face. And it's kind of like, well, everyone's warning it's about to get really shitty, but I'm the only one who knows that right now. So, to her credit, again, and I love Wendy Dio. What a great first manager to have. She goes, Oni's got something to tell all of you. I was like, wow, okay, this is not going to be good. And she's making Oni do it. Uh-oh. And he kind of,
for her.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What a pro. And she just kind of stands there and goes, floor is yours. And it wasn't nasty. It was just very matter of fact. And Oni goes, well, I was talking to George. I went to Phoenix this past weekend, and, I'm going to join Lynch Mob. And you got to remember, everything I have worked for is on a stack of paper right in front of me with a pen. And I'm just thinking to myself, you're kidding me. And our drummer, Anthony goes, I even brought a special pen, and I'm just going, oh my God. And you're like, what do you do? What do you say? Because Marc's trying to talk him back in. Wendy gets Don Dokken on the phone, who then tells him, this is a bad idea. I'm like, again, if Quentin Tarantino heard this script, he'd say, I can't make that into a movie. It's too outlandish.
Exactly. So, nobody's going to believe this.
Yeah, this is complete. You guys are drunk. No, this is 8 o'clock in the morning. We're not talking. So, Marc's trying to talk him back into it. I'm the only one saying, look, man, he wants to go. If he stays, his heart's not going to be in it. I'm as furious as anyone else here, but he doesn't want to stay. So it's kind of like, you got to let him go. So he does. He leaves, and he goes to Lynch. They play it right. So now MCA, thankfully, is still. We have our producer. We have done pre-production. We are ready to go in and record like the next week. We got to put Sound C on hold. Kevin Beamish, who's producing the record, is cool enough to go, if you love the band, I'll wait. I'll help you guys find a singer, pick one, whatever. Great, cool. So now it's find a singer, boys. And we hit Z-Rock. We hit everyone we know. We just spent the next 5-6 months probably digging for singers. And I'm guessing we saw just about everyone. And guys who had records out, guys who would get records out. Ralph Sands from Steel Panther auditioned for us. Who else? This guy named Paul Colt, who was in a band that got dropped, unfortunately, by Third Stone called Screams and Dreams. He auditioned for us. A guy who sang for Head East auditioned for us. It was just this cattle call. And finally, a guy who was friends with Oni, a friend of the band too, said, hey, I saw this guy in the Button South in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I think you should take a look. So they sent him the picture, and at that point we're like, whatever. We don't know what to think. We're amazingly, we still have our deal. And at this point, it's like August or September. We've been at this a while. So Roy Cathey gets his info sent to us, And we hear the tape, and we're like, well, the dude can sing. So we go, well, let's bring him in. So we bring him in, and he kills everything. And he'd been used to singing 3 hours a night, so, we're doing 40 minutes worth of a record. He's killing it. So we bring in Kevin Beamish, who says, there's your guy. So, boom, okay, done. Welcome to the band, you're in. And one change. You got to change your name from Roy to Rory. Okay, got it. We're recording next week.
And who wrote the lyrics then? Did he rewrite it, or was it only lyrics?
I think some of them, Ronnie's credited on one or two, I think. We did redo some with Roy, but I think mostly at that point it was mostly Marc's baby at that stage of the game. And as we were writing for the record, you kind of see some are Marc Ferrari or Marc Ferrari and Tommy Thayer, or Marc Ferrari and Jimmy St. James, or whatever. And then the later material, like Long Way Down, Killing Floor, what was another one? Fistful of Money. Those were later ones we all wrote together. So if Roy got in there, it was kind of, hurry up, rewrite this, boom, 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 boom. Because there's just some things that just, Oni has a vibe, and they fit Oni when Oni does it. If you try and do that, it doesn't come off as the same way. So we kind of had to get him into thinking about, be your own guy kind of thing. So those are the ones that would have been rewritten.
Right. Now, I've interviewed Oni, and he's an interesting guy. What was he like to be in a band with?
I love Oni to death. I really do. I was really angry with him at the time, but like I said, I understood it. He's very and I use this in the best sense, arty farty. he is such he wants to go on the vibe. It's got to feel a certain way. He's so easygoing. He's got such a unique quality to his voice. I mean, literally, I've never heard anyone sound like Oni. And the things he'd come up with, if you try and pressure him into creating the discipline that some guys can have, like the vibe quality and then the discipline to throw it together, you have to let it go with him. And I didn't know that at the time. Of older now, you just kind of let him work at his own speed. But all of us were just so fast at coming up with stuff. And you got this really mellow, nice guy who was just like, well, I'm not feeling it. And but it sounds great, dude. Well, and you just kind of, all right, okay. Like I said, now I'd be like, all right, well, he'll get it. Fine, leave him alone. But, we're kind of, in the machine at that point, and you got to go. So later, and he didn't do well with pressure at that point at all. And I remember running into George Lynch later. And I knew this about him. He I don't know what he's like now, but then he would cave to pressure. And he'd become very withdrawn and maybe even disappear on you, or, talk to his friend from Lynchburg, Tennessee, who, has a number 7 on his chest, and get a little too hammered. And I remember running into George at the NAMM show later, and we're talking, we're hanging out, whatever, and like I said, I knew this about Oni, but with us, I think it would have been okay because we all would have grown together to any level of pressure we would have hit. I mean, the expectations, whatever. He went from 0 to 60. He went from a nobody to I'm standing next to George Lynch. Who at the time, it was like Lynch, Jake, Ed, I don't know who else, Zach maybe, Warren DeMartini. Those
exactly.
George.
Huge expectations on that band. Massive expectations on Lynch Mob.
Monstrous. Yeah. And then the record was good. I mean, they delivered, and Oni sounded cool, and it was great. And then you got to do this night after night, dude. Night after night, go. You have to do this. And George already understood that. So did Mick. I don't know if Anthony did. Esposito, another nice guy. And I remember running into George, and we're talking, hey man, how you doing? Blah blah blah. And he just pauses just a second. He goes, dude, why didn't you warn me about Oni? And I just giggled, and I said, because like I said, it was more, I think, with him was like you said, the massive expectations, and and you were throwing a really nice, gentle guy into that shark mouth, and
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I think, and if you would have let him grow into it, he would have been just fine. Like, he's great now. He's killing. But he, at that point, man, he was a 22-year-old kid right out of South Florida, and just like, boom, here you are. And I turned to George, I go, would you believe me? And he laughed, and he goes, nope, sure wouldn't have. I said, well,
no.
What are you going to say? Yeah, and it was true. And well, like I said, I saw Oni at Ronnie Dio's funeral service. What was that, 5 years ago? And it was so fantastic. It was like, wow, you are Oni. You are true to yourself. This is who you are. This lovable, nice guy with a unique voice. It's just, don't push him. It doesn't. I don't think it works. You have to let Oni do what he does at Oni's pace.
So when you jumped into the studio with Roy,
mm-hmm.
How smooth did things go at that point?
Oh, we flew through that record. I mean, we'd been rehearsing it for 8 months. That's what we auditioned everyone on. And then Anthony and I would go in, sometimes with Eric, but Anthony and I would go in every day. We had a lockout. So the room was ours for 24 hours. And we would walk in and go, all right, let's play side one of Alice Cooper's Killer. Play the whole thing. All right, now we're going to play all of Rush's All the World the Stage. Play the whole thing. And that was, at that point, Ed Van Halen was producing Private Life, like 2 doors over. And he was there every day, too, before the band. So he finally got to see me and Anthony come in, and we just liked to play. That's what we did. We're musicians. We play. So by the time, so Ed would always, hear us jamming or whatever, come over, and we ended up bowling and having a great time with him. But by the time we got into the studio with Roy, 1 take, 2 takes, maybe on everything. Beamish was like, oh my God. There's like one, I think Killing Floor, I had to redo the bass because the bass strings were dead. Otherwise, that would have been, he kept like entire takes of Anthony and I. And he's like, this never happens. Well, at this point, Kevin, we know this stuff better than our own names. So we ripped through it. And there's like the Foghat tune, I Just Want to Make Love to You. That's a whole entire live take. Whole thing, whole band.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, because if you listen to it, it's set up like a show. Yeah, guitar on one side, guitar on the other. I think Kevin at one point overdubs a guitar lick just to be a show off.
But isn't there like twin guitar solos and stuff in that song?
Oh yeah, but if it's like,
and that's all live.
Yeah, yep, it's live.
Wow.
Yep. But again, at that point, we played it about 800 times. So we were used to it. And I think we could have played the whole record and kept entire takes the entire way, which is how Saigon Kick did it. But with Cold Sweat, Kevin wanted to work on this guitar sound and do this, you do that, or Marc wanted to play his Les Paul, and he had some else on the time, or Eric had this and whatever on the guitar players. So
sure.
Yeah, it's my tone isn't right. Okay. So it probably could have gone even faster, but it was quick. I mean, and I think that kind of spirit of woohoo, we got it done, you can really hear on the record.
Yeah, the sense of relief that you're actually in the studio.
Oh yeah, oh, it's like, oh man, yeah, that Dave sitting there in Wendy's office. Whew, are you sure we're really going to do this? Yeah, and we did.
And what was the response to the record when it came out?
It was really good. It was so funny. We went on the road with Sabotage first, and then the Sleaze Bees we went out with, and clubs were filled, most of the time. We shot a video when we were out with Dio. It was first Dio, Yngwie, and us, and then Dio, Love Hate, and us. And we were in San Antonio. We shot you for Let's Make Love Tonight, and the guy added to MTV on Headbangers Ball. And then in just the infinite wisdom of the music business, Wendy calls us up one day. We're in Washington D.C. She goes, I've got good news and bad news. I was like, okay, what? The good news is MTV added the video to heavy rotation today. We were like, damn, awesome. The bad news is MCA has dropped the band.
What?
Yeah, that's kind of what we said. And we're like, how do these things go together? And of course, MTV gets wind of that and poof, gone.
Yeah, of course.
So to answer your question, the reaction was quite good and was building. And then it stopped. We still don't know to this day why MCA decided, not
really?
so much. No idea. I mean, we were doing the best out of all the bands on in that signing at that point, and in the genre. And I mean, Z-Rock loved us. We were getting airplay. The reviews were good, and it was working. I mean, and then MCA just went, nope, you're out of here. Game over. And that was the middle of, it was like right before Thanksgiving. And we've been out on the road since, I think, May or June. And we went over to Europe. We did Monsters of Rock and at the Super Rock Festival. Awesome response in Kerrang and, Art Shock and all that stuff at the time. And we played the Borderline in London. Awesome review of that one. And yeah, we couldn't figure it out, which is what happened. So gone, done. Come home. Okay.
So what did you do?
We came home and went, all right, well, let's start writing and try and get re-signed to whoever. And I think, and it was kind of at the time, if you look back, this is 90, 91, you were starting to see the era of what we were doing. And Cold Sweat wasn't really like the hair metal-ish. We were a little more Tesla-esque, in the blues bass kind of stuff. And again, really pushing the two-guitar Thin Lizzy thing that not a lot of bands are doing. So we were a little different. So we came back and started writing more stuff like that, trying to get re-signed, and almost got signed to IRS/Grand Slam, almost. And then you start seeing bands like Soundgarden showing up, and Alice in Chains, and we did. And again, this is the way the industry works. And if you, again, it was a Quentin Tarantino rule. If you told me you'd make a movie out of this, I'd say it was unbelievable. Jason Flom shows up for Atlantic when we're showcasing for Atlantic, trying to get re-signed. He shows up. And, again, working later with Flom, I was like, okay, now I get his personality. He shows up, he's like, no, not going to happen. I'm really kind of looking for this band I signed out of Florida. They're called Saigon Kick. And I was like, huh? I was like, wow, that was amazingly blunt. But, okay, I know where I stand at least. And that's Flom 101. He's like, look, I love you guys. You're nice people. With this and that, it's not going to happen. But, if you want to have lunch, let's have lunch. Or if he goes, I love this, we're going to take this as high as we can, he does that too. He gets right to the point. So it didn't work. We just kept trying to do it. And then you felt the shift musically happening. And as soon as that started, I learned then you're radioactive. Once you're dropped from a label, you've lost all hope of getting re-signed under the current banner. Like bands like Thunder were so rare that you get dropped by Epic or whoever it was, and Kolodner hears you and grabs you at Geffen and makes it a hit record. That's just it. You have to change the name. You have to change the look. You have to forget it. Meanwhile, if you're an actor and you have a TV show or movie that flops, you'll get working in another one, no problem. Not the same for a band. You're hosed. That's it. So it started unraveling quickly. And Anthony and I started doing this thing called Cold Gin. And we kind of did that to have a blast and, pay some bills and do that. And while we were all kind of looking for other gigs,
and that was the Kiss tribute, right?
Yes. Yep. So, that started as playing Marc Ferrari and Jamie St. James have birthdays in a week of each other. So they would have this big party every year. And you have Marc, Jamie, Tommy, myself, Anthony all get up and play Kiss songs all the time. And, it's the hit of the party. Like, musicians always get up and jam, but everyone plays, like, Highway to Hell or whatever. They, get hammered and then do a blues thing for 8 minutes. So we actually would play 8, 10, 12 Kiss songs in a row. And it went over like a bomb. So, like, let's go book a gig, see what happens. Just dress in T-shirts and jeans, just, cold gin with a K at that point. Okay, cool. Started packing the clubs. Started this and that. Jamie St. James one night, hey, let's put the makeup on. Yeah, right, whatever, say. That's pretty funny. No, really, we should. We're either going to be the heroes or the goats, and I'm not going to be a goat. So we put makeup on. Out of control. Okay, so it evolved into what it evolved into. And it was insanity. I mean, we were starring at the Celebrity Theater in Anaheim, which is that's like a 3,500 seat venue, and that's when, and Gene and Paul were really cool with it the whole way.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, because Gene had produced Nasty Nasty.
Oh, true. Yeah.
And what was the other one? In Heat. He'd done both of those for Black and Blue. And so they had to sign a possible cease and desist, which meant if we get fed up, we're going to make it stop. Gene was, we will have to do this because the lawyers are going crazy. Okay, right, all right. And sure, lawyers are always going crazy, Gene. But they loved it. They came to the shows, and it was fun. It was packed houses. But when we did Celebrity Theater, they go, Gene's like, okay, that's too big. Back to the clubs. So, which we're like, okay, we'll go back and play the Troupe. Pack that out. Doesn't matter. I mean, we're like, this is so amazing that they're letting us do this anyway. This is your thing. If you tell me I have to stop, fine. Well,
I remember back in the day, there was a photo of you in Metal Edge, I think, in makeup.
Oh yeah.
Like that's, that just to show the size of it.
Oh,
you're even in the rock mags in makeup.
Yep. I have 2 pictures on my phone when people ask about that. And I say I'm probably one of the only people to have a picture of me in makeup and Gene not in makeup, and then vice versa.
Yeah.
And again, if you had told me this when I was a kid in Mount Vernon, Ohio, buying Kiss Alive, and let's say the cashier said, okay, I'm from the future, and here's what's going to happen, I'd be like, yeah, you've clearly been over, in the paint section huffing, because you are insane, And then again, you're hired by Gene to play Paul's birthday party, and you meet Donald Trump, and you ask him to lend $100 for the bar, and he says no, of course. That's why he's Donald Trump. But yeah. But you're meeting Bob Ezrin, you're meeting all these people, and you're just going, I'm doing this all because it's I played Gene for fun. It was just goofy, and it seems to work out pretty well for Tommy, I would like to point out. Yeah. But that's no mystery either. He was, like he did for Kiss. Tommy was like, well, we got to do this, and we got to do this, and we got to do this, and all his spit and polish, every bit of it mattered. And he brought that same thing to the real deal too. But they absolutely loved him. So we were going to do that thing until until someone joined another band, and that was me. But it was so much fun. It really was. But like you said, it got big, fast, and there was nothing like it at the time. Nothing. There were no, you had Michael White and the White doing the Led Zeppelin stuff. There were no other real big tribute bands, and we didn't want to be one. Jamie used to call us the exhibit. We're an exhibit. You come and see us. After a certain point, the exhibit's going to end. You'll never see us again. It's like, this is not for a living. We all make records and stuff. This is something fun that got way out of control and got to be more fun. But this is, we're not going to make our livelihood. Not like today, where it seems like the tribute bands are doing better than the real bands. So it was just one of those weird turns that your career takes. That if you would have told me about it, I would have thinking, there's no way this is going to happen. And it's even times when, like, my kids will ask us, they'll see something on the net and they'll say, what really? Yeah, oh, yeah, forgot about that. Yeah,
I was cool once.
yeah, believe it or not, yeah, I wasn't just the guy saying, you want to fill the dishwasher for crying out loud. I've only asked you 3 times. Yeah, dad, mean dad. Yeah.
And how did the Saigon Kick gig come along?
Saigon Kick happened. I was getting ready to go to a cold gin gig at a place called, of course, Bananas in Orange County. And a friend of mine who worked at Polygram calls me on a Monday and says, "Hey man, I had 2 favorite bands at the time. I loved Saigon Kick and I loved Skid Row. That were like not my current peer group, let's call it." And he says, "You're not going to believe me, dude. Saigon Kick fired their bass player. Here's the address. Send your stuff to this now." So I get what I got together. Luckily I'd shot a promo shot with Niels Lozauer a couple weeks before, so I had those. Boom, bam, overnight. They had it the next morning, and they're like, "Wow, boy, that was fast. How'd you hear about this?" Kind of thing. So they look at it, and their manager, they were in Florida, their manager was in Orange County, so I drove down to meet him, and everything goes well, and so Jason calls me up after he had read the bio and says, "I got to tell you, the thing that makes us want to bring you down here is you said your favorite band's the Beatles." I said, "Yeah, that's it. I start there and everyone else falls underneath." And he said, "And then Queen." I was like, "Oh, yep, they're number 2. Yeah." And he said, "Cool. Well, come on in." So I'd already had an advanced copy of The Lizard because I had friends at Atlantic. So I knew the whole catalog. They said, "Well, we'll do everything off of both records." I was like, "Wow, really? That's kind of cool." So we go in there, and I knew it all. I already knew it all. And they're just looking at me like, "What the hell?" I screwed up 2 things because I couldn't make it out on the record in time. And it was in New World, and it was in Susie, I think. These little runs. And what I did was, as we're playing them, I look over at Jason, and I went, "Okay, that's where your hand is. Okay, cool." And so we play the song. He goes, "Can we go to that middle section, New World?" He goes, "Can we go over that again? It didn't sound right." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure." So we go over it again. And, of course, I played exactly right because I just watched him do it. And he's like, "Okay, well, that sounded right."
It must have been me.
Right, yeah. He's like, "Sounded right that time." And I'm like, "Whew, dodge a bullet." Yeah, okay. So we go through everything. And there was only one thing I wasn't sure about, and that was God of 42nd Street. And Jason, who had written the bass line, showed me how one. I was like, "Okay, cool." I went back to the hotel, rehearsed it, and I had it for that night for rehearsal. Done. So they're like, "Okay, let's all go out." So, and I get this too. It was more important for them to see if we could all get along, which is sensible, because if you're going to be locked up on a tour bus, in a hotel room, on an airplane, 24 hours a day for a year at a time, you better get along. So we went out that night and had too much beer and played a lot of pool and just acted like complete idiots who had known each other all their lives. So I go back to the hotel, and I think we played the next day, and like, cool, whatever. Like, frankly, Doug, dude, you're the first guy in. So we had some other people we're going to see, so, we can't tell you yes, can't tell you no, but God, we love you, and, don't go anywhere. So, okay. And I'm going, wow, man, it just, everything felt right about it. And so I get on the plane and I come home, and my girlfriend says to me, "So, how'd it go?" I said, "It went really well," whatever. So, all right, well, I haven't been back very long. So I said, "All right, I'll go to Blockbuster and get us some movies." So I go to the movie store and come back. And she goes, "Jason Bieler called." And I'm going, shit. They found someone. I am hosed. That's it, And she said she wanted you to call him back. So, okay, so I call him back. "Hey, man, how's it going?" "Good. The gig's yours if you want it." I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "What happened to seeing other people?" We're like, we thought about it. We brought one guy in. Wasn't even close. Come on back. We're going on tour and whatever. And I think The Lizard was just hitting the stores at that point. This was like July 10th or whatever. It was just being released, so they hadn't done any dates for it. When I came back to LA, I think they were editing Love Is on the Way, so I was like, okay, cool. So I threw all my stuff and my basses or whatever, and just headed on out, and we started that tour. 3-4 days later, off we went.
And was that touring with Extreme, or did that tour come later?
That was later. We went from like July all the way through January by ourselves. And then we did Extreme January through end of March, I think, maybe beginning of April in 93.
So when that record came out, Hostile Youth, I think, was the first single. I don't know how, I remember I saw the video, it was getting airplay, whatnot. But I would imagine that tour started fairly small. Like, what was the growth of that tour as you went through, and Love Is on the Way came out and things kind of took off?
We started in Florida, so that was the band's kind of home stomping ground, so the crowds were good. And then they'd kind of go up and down, up and down. I saw the same patterns in attendance that I had seen a couple of years earlier with Cold Sweat, where there's certain sections of the country that just they just love loud guitars and loud drums and screaming and yelling. Ohio, Chicago, Milwaukee, Texas, other like Denver, Phoenix, those places, no matter what, we'd always did well. Then Love Is on the Way had this slow climb. And the crowd started getting bigger and bigger and then bigger, and they were always kind of a little shocked. I mean, people would come to see, they're going to do Love Is on the Way, and later when we toured with Extreme, they said, oh yeah, we know what you're talking about. Like, yeah, well, I'll bet you do.
Yeah.
So it was, some people are like, what the hell's going on here? But a lot of people who were fans of the band had kind of already figured out that the band was pretty diverse. And we'd go to radio, and this is, one of those, I couldn't high-five him from where I was in the studio, but I wanted to. We had gone to this radio station, and we were doing like 4 or 5 a day when it hit. I remember in Boston, we literally did 6 stations in one day. And so we played Love Is on the Way 6 times, because we're doing acoustic sets, and then played it that night. So talk about knowing in your sleep. So
yeah,
we're at some radio station. The guy's getting kind of snarky with us, and which is a mistake, because Saigon Kick was the funniest band I was ever in, and I was in a lot of funny bands. But you're talking about 4 Don Rickles all in the same band. Just if you taunt us. But we had a sound man later who toured with the Sex Pistols, said we were funnier and sharper than the Sex Pistols, which I took as a huge compliment. So this guy is talking about, well, you got Love Is on the Way and it's going up the charts. Isn't that kind of typical? You're having a hit with the ballad and you release the ballad to get airplay and blah, blah, blah. And just kind of, needling us. And Jason is just kind of letting the guy, he get out the rope, form it into the noose, let's get the knot right. And Jason goes, well, I noticed over there you have Hostile Youth as the first single, but, like most radio stations, you ignored it and went for the safe bet with the ballad. And the guy was like, wow, man. That was a Mike Tyson haymaker. Way to go. Phenomenal. Yeah, that was Ronda Rousey out in 34 seconds. Boom, boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, wow. But that was, that's just what Atlantic did. Let's put the hard rock one out first, and then the single, the love song. But it was a slow climb. I remember, we were playing that on the road in July, and some stations were playing it. But then by the time October hit, we played MTV, and we did like an on-air thing, and it was still just kind of cracking the top, 40 or 30. And it was, it's such a slow climb. So it gave us a lot of good attendance for a very long period. And even still through into the Extreme tour. Same thing.
Now, when you finished up that tour and things went south with Matt, what happened there?
I would still love to know to this day. I'm not sure. It might have been kind of parallel with Oni. If you push Matt and try and let's go, and there's pressure, he doesn't do well with it. And we have a gold record, gold single, and gold record, and the label's going, give us another Love Is On the Way. Well, Love Is On the Way happened organically, just the same way Come Take Me Now happened organically, just the same way My Dog happened organically. The band was always about writing good songs. So now the label's like, give us another one, give us another one, give us another one. And I think that caused the biggest source of friction, I would say, because it was, we need this, and Matt just didn't do well with that sort of stuff. And I don't think he still does. He's kind of like Oni in the fact that just let him do what he does. It will happen. But when you're in your early 20s and you got the record company breathing down your neck when they didn't give a shit about you a year before that, and they're like, go, now. Again, you're getting the pressure, and some people do well with that, and some do not. And I think that was probably the biggest reason Matt was like, you know what? I can't do this. I just can't. And that was the end of that.
So now you find yourself again in a band that's singerless.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
How long, did you explore other singers, or was it pretty quickly decided that Jason would take it on?
Yeah, it was like that. It was like lunch that day. We're like, okay, Matt's out of here. We're still in Sweden. We got to finish this. We were 8-9 songs into the record, and we're just going. We got to finish it. So much of the sound was the two of their voices, but he could kind of imitate Matt's voice anyway. And then I learned to for the tour, and Jason just kind of sang it as he did the demos, and we just went from there. There wasn't really a choice. At one point, I remember almost losing the deal because some folks from the record company came down, I think, to put the kibosh on it, and then they heard the record and went, huh, all right. Doug Morris at Atlantic, one of the big wigs, said, you have three top 10 hits on this record. And he was right. Atlantic didn't do shit with it in the United States, but all over the world, especially in Indonesia, every one of the songs that Doug called, which is I Love You, On, and what was the third one? Maybe it was Close to You, or it wasn't Fields of Rape, it was something else. Were all hits. Big hits. I was like, wow. I was like, okay, he was right. So we had to finish it and get it done, and we did. And then we, raced to get it out, and then raced to get on the road. But it was kind of like, again, if you look in hindsight, it was kind of doomed, because what so much of that dynamic was the four guys, and the three were pulling it off, and it was doing well, but it was just like something's missing here, and then it just kind of down it went.
I think Matt brings with him an edge vocally.
Yep.
And that was probably, to me, what wasn't there.
I agree. Matt's got, again, like Oni, he's got a voice I wish I had. I can sing all day long at unbelievably high pitch, like Halford, and loud as shit. But as I like to say, I'm a singer, I'm not a vocalist. Matt has a vocal quality. There's something about Matt's voice. There's something about Matt, the way he phrases stuff with Jason, whose voice is very smooth and very clear, really clear, and always has been. Matt's always has a bit of a to it, but with a good range. There's more shades to it, and I think that's what changed the most.
That's it for this week. I'll have the second half of the interview with Chris up next week. You'll find out what it's like to go bowling with Eddie Van Halen. As always, check out thedoubletop.com for all the past episodes. For those who are able to support the show, I do have a donate button up. It does help cover the cost of hosting and other fees. Until next week, thanks for listening to The Double Stop.